What's going on, everybody? Multifamily Mentors coming from Miami, beautiful Florida. And our guest today is someone that I've been following, looking up to, studying, wanting to emulate the last 4 or 5 years. He's one of the foremost thought leaders in business and real estate in the world. He's probably the best salesperson in the world, offers some of the best sales training in the world, throws some of the best and biggest real estate and business events. He's a New York Times best-selling author multiple times over, reality TV star, maybe one of the world's best capital raisers. He's raised over $1 billion the last 7 years. Real estate mogul, over $4 billion. By the time this airs, it might be $5 billion. But most importantly, and the thing that probably matters most to our guest today, is loving father and husband. Some people know him as Mr. 10X. Some people know him as Uncle G. Grant Cardone in the building. What's going on, baby? How are you?
Hey, good to be with you. Thanks for coming down to do this. And I love the audience at BiggerPockets. You know, I like highly educated, sophisticated real estate people or people that are getting in the game and they know that real estate is a safe place.
That's right. Yeah. So first and foremost, you know, I just rattled off a couple pretty huge accomplishments that you've done. You know, and I know you're from a small town.
We raised, one thing you said wrong, we've raised $1 billion in 3.5 years.
3.5 years.
Not 7 years.
My bad. The internet was wrong. I apologize.
Yeah.
So you've raised $1 billion in a short amount of time. You've done some insane things. What goes through your mind coming from Lake Charles, Louisiana? I'm from Des Moines, Iowa, right? So we're both from podunk towns. What goes through your mind when you hear a list like that all you've accomplished?
Well, you know, it's humbling, bro. Like, cause I remember growing up, I was living in a duplex. I was 21 years old, living in a little duplex on 11th Street in Lake Charles, Louisiana. I rented it from my teacher at college. His name was Charlie Whitman. I paid $275 a month. And every other month, bro, I couldn't make the rent. And now to know that today I own, 12,000 units. We manage 25,000. The average rent on those units are probably $2,000 or $2,100. It's, I've been blessed and I've worked hard and I've done the right thing. And real estate has actually protected me through all these cycles. When other guys were busting out, the real estate, it saved me in 2000, saved me again in 2008. COVID, it saved me in a huge way. Because when all the headlines were apartments, nobody's going to pay their rent, our collections went up.
Wow.
They didn't go down.
Wow.
So
I want to get into that today. And I think, the goal for me today is, in my favorite podcast.
But the highlight of my life, bro, is to be on your show. For real. For real. Because, there's a lot of shows you can be on, but it's also got to be consistent with the audience that I want to communicate with.
That's right.
And I can go on Instagram or TikTok, but that doesn't mean that audience wants to be educated on what I believe to be the safest investment on planet Earth today.
Real estate, multifamily real estate. The name of the show is Multifamily Mentors. So that's why you're here. That's why you're the guest we've been trying to get to for 3 years, right? So here we are. We've been studying, preparing for a long time. And I couldn't be more, humbled and excited just to be sitting down with you. Because I think, my goal for today is I want to add, my favorite podcasts are the ones that offer practical advice, right? I listen to it and I'm like, okay, let me go emulate and put that into practice so that my life can 10X or add a zero. I like to say add a zero, same thing, multiply, right? Yeah. Add a zero. And so there's so many people out there right now struggling, right? And so I want this to be the most watched show ever on BiggerPockets, right? And the way we're going to do it is we're going to offer the best advice, right? And so that's what you're here. So we're going to drop some knowledge. And are you ready for this?
I stay ready.
You stay ready. All right, great. So take me back. I think the first thing that I want to learn, and I think that people can learn from you is, what did you learn 2000, the dot-com, 2008, the Great Recession? Mm-hmm. Walk me through what it was like for you being a real estate professional, not having the social media platform you have now, not having the jets and all the toys. What was it like going through those recessions that's prepared you now going into the current economic environment?
Well, I didn't know. I didn't even know. The first recession that I was in 1995 was the credit and loans savings debacle. Savings and loan debacle.
Right.
I didn't even know what was happening. I mean, I was poor. I didn't have any money. Right. I was a salesman, business owner. I was the salesman, the account representative, like everything.
Right.
I wasn't making any money really. And so I think I was making $36,000 a year.
In 1995?
Yeah, as a business owner.
So how'd you get through it?
Well, I didn't know it was happening. I didn't even know it. That's what's going to happen to most of the country won't even know, a third of the country won't even know anything happened because you're poor.
Right.
And you're beat up. And you don't know things are good or things are bad. Nothing really changes. That's where I was. Now, in 2000, when the internet busted, I had started to figure out my business. I'm starting to grind and I'm starting to get a little traction. Now I'm making 100 grand or 120,000.
And what were you doing at that time?
I was actually consulting companies, traveling all over the country, showing them this thing that I believed, I hadn't quite validated yet, but I believed would be a great thing for this particular industry. And I was traveling all over the country in Canada, going out, basically doing it for free in hopes that they would give me money.
So this is where you really cut your chops, sales.
It was consulting. Door-to-door cold calls to business owners. I wasn't selling pots and pans like Zig Ziglar. I was calling on business owners saying, hey, I want to give something to your company. I'll show you how to grow your top line. That ended up getting picked up. It was very successful. Fortune 500 companies ended up hiring me, ended up paying me tens of millions of dollars of consulting fees to change their sales process.
Wow.
From this trickery, manipulation, antiquated, say the right thing at the right time, all this they do, to something where it was more information. I was talking to people about give your customer information before they ask for it. This was pre-internet.
Right.
I said the world is going to evolve to where people will be able to look on their phones and get everything. And everybody's laughing at me saying, no. Well, it happened. And I just happened to be way ahead of my time. So it didn't make a lot of money in the beginning. So when I was traveling, I'd come home. The thing I've always loved is real estate. I like helping people.
So this is before real estate. You're just in consulting sales.
Well, I'm starting to buy a little real estate quietly. When I started making some money, I went from making 30 grand a year to 120, and then I started hitting it. 300 grand, 400 grand, 500 grand. And I had this extra money. And one piece of advice I'll give to people, like I have not always had Rolls Royces and Gulfstreams and helicopters. Dude, in the beginning, in the first 20 years of my business, I took all my extra dollars. I lived on 36 grand a year till I was 45 years old, even though I was making $1 million.
So you were super frugal. So the guy today with $1 million watches and
everything was going into real estate. Nobody knew. I was hustling Ford Motor Company during the week. If I closed them, I'd get the extra money and I'd buy apartments with it.
Wow.
I wasn't even reinvesting in my own business. There was no marketing. There was no Instagram, Facebook. You couldn't spend ad dollars. The only way to spend ad dollars was newspaper or TV. It was so expensive. It was just impossible. Only Coca-Cola could do that. So I'm like, what can I buy to put this money into? I didn't buy a Rolex till I was 45 years old. Didn't buy a German car till I was 45 years old. I didn't own a home, bro.
Wow.
People were out buying houses and I was buying apartments. C quality, C neighborhoods, B and C neighborhoods.
So the workforce game. The value add game. Yeah.
$600 rents.
Got it.
I was doing that because I was scared that I couldn't keep doing that. I couldn't keep hustling forward.
Got it.
I couldn't keep going on the road. It was impossible, bro. I was doing literally 1 year, I spent 265 days on the road without ever going home.
This is before wife and kids. This is before before Elaine.
Before wife and kids. Yeah. I didn't even have girlfriends.
Wow.
I mean, I was like...
You were just so focused and locked in.
I was staying in hotels all the time, Holiday Inns. I was collecting points. I was flying coach everywhere. If they upgraded me, great. But if they didn't, I wouldn't pay it. Like super, super, super frugal. You know, and still today, I'm haunted by some of that. And I'm parking money in real estate. So when 2000 hit, the internet hit, the businesses got crushed. Everybody got crushed. My real estate kept working. I didn't quite trust it yet, okay? Fast forward 8 years, 2008 happens, bam. Okay, I had gone from, 92 units to 2,200 units between 2000. I expanded after the internet busted because every time you have a bust, real estate values go down and then they pop up again. I bought 2,200 units, sold them in that period of time, 2000, 2008. 2008, I sold everything.
Before the crash?
I had like 90 units left, and they were all in a location that was completely protected.
How did you know how to? Oh, that's insane. How did you know how to do that?
Dude, I don't know. I'm like, grab your money, let's go.
Wow.
And I did. I parked it, sat down, and then I started buying again in 2010. 2010, I went from I think I had 90 units or something, 60 units in San Diego. And a grocery shopping center, sold that, put all the money together, and had bought a house, sold the house, took the equity out of the house, bought 1,000 units in Florida, which would become 12,000 units and $4 billion between 2010 and 2022.
Wow.
All that happened in the last 10 years. The point to answer your question, the first recession, I didn't know I was going through it. The second, I didn't know what to do with it. The third one, I was terrified, but I was starting to prep it, 2008. This one, bro, I am so ready. I had to go through 3 of them to know what to do in this one.
So let's talk about that. We're headed into 2023, right?
Yeah.
This last year, we've seen epic inflation that we haven't seen since 1980.
Yeah, thank God I love inflation. You guys in real estate should love inflation.
It's been good. It's been good.
Inflation's a good thing.
It's been good. The stock market has been extremely volatile. You know, at one point down 30 or 40, the NASDAQ's probably down 30 to 40%.
1,000 points this morning.
Exactly. Getting crushed.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that. Yeah, getting crushed. You know, Ukraine, Russia, there's all kinds of volatility going on. Everyone, Goldman, Blackstone, everyone's saying major, major recession coming.
Yeah.
So as we sit here today, what are you doing to prepare for this cycle that we're headed into? What are you doing? What's Grant Cardone doing?
Yeah, Grant Cardone has already accepted that we're in a major recession right now. So I'll let the rest of the world accept it, you know, next year because the government lies to you guys and you believe economists. Economists are always wrong. The banks will always lie to you. They'll tell you for 9 months there's no recession, and then they'll say, yes, there was one. All these indicators are lagging. Politicians lie. The administration's not going to tell you the truth. They already changed the definition in June.
It's insane, yeah.
So the first thing I'm going to do is accept that we're already in one.
So recognize the current climate. We're in a recession.
Accept it. Even if you're wrong, just accept we got a problem. $32 trillion worth of debt. Like, you can't fix this problem.
So what else do you do?
So now what do you do about it, right? You first thing you do is you take what I did in February of this year, just 10 months ago. I saw what was happening. We had 4 deals under contract, $1.2 billion worth of real estate. I walked away from all 4 of them.
Terminated everything.
First 4 deals I've ever walked away in my entire career.
Did you have non-refundable earnest money?
I had non-refundables on 2 of them, $2 million exposure. And I didn't have non-refundable yet on the other 2.
So you walked away from $2 million because you saw what was happening.
Walked away from $2 million. I got it back.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I always get it back, man. That's
We'll have to have another podcast about how you did that.
My negotiating skill. And Ryan Secco came to me. He's like, man, we're non-refundable on this. I said, okay. So he's like, the lawyer said there's no way we're going to get this back. I said, I'll worry about that later. Walk away from the deals first. These are going to be bad deals.
Wow.
February.
Wow.
I probably walked away without like tooting my own horn from the first 4 deals that people walked away from in 2022 because thousands have been walked away from since then and renegotiated.
Oh, right.
So we walked. I said, first thing to do is walk away. You don't chase $2 million and end up with $1 billion worth of bad deals.
Right, exactly.
That discipline, that superpower.
I'd rather save the $100 million of equity. We were in the same position, right? You'd rather save the $100 million of equity versus the 2. Sacrifice the 2 to have the 100 go after.
You got to be willing to walk away from 2 million. I'm not.
So you almost
I'm making
walked
$1 billion
away.
plays,
Right.
dude.
Yeah.
I'll risk $2 million for $1 billion every day of the week.
So it seems like a good trade.
Yeah. So because I know property values are going to go down, and I thought it was going to happen in the last quarter of this year. I was wrong. It's not. It's probably going to happen the second quarter of next year. It's unfolding right now. We ended up getting the $2 million back because I know how to make a bunch of noise on people. And they're like, yeah, just give the guys $2 million. Okay. They still haven't sold those properties, by the way, 10 months later.
Wow.
And so what am I doing? Okay. First thing I do is accept. Second thing I do is retreat. I pull back any problems that I might have that I'm not 1,000% certain on. I call it 3, 4s, and 5s. 1 and 2, I got to do it. 3, 4s, and 5s, it's a maybe or definitely don't need to do it. A 5. Okay. 3, 4s, and 5, I quit spending, I quit using, I cut off, I kill. 1s and 2s, I stay with. And then I retract for a second so that I can go expand. And so the third thing we're doing right now is moving into the marketplace, looking and hunting for deals.
So you're looking and hunting. And are there any specific demographic regions that you're like, this is where I think the puck is going?
Yes. California will continue to flood into my favorite market, Arizona. New York will flood into my next favorite state, Florida. Alabama, the Carolinas, Georgia.
Your soon-to-be favorite state, once you come to a deal with me in Denver.
Texas,
They're coming to Denver.
Love Denver.
They're coming to Denver.
Love Denver. And because there's so many of those pockets in Denver that are so freaking cool. I got to be in states where the landlord is protected, that I don't have to spend millions of dollars evicting. I need to be able to evict. Okay, if I have a bad actor on a property and I got 300 units and one bad person, to protect the other 299 people, I have to get rid of the
100%.
guy that can't pay his rent or won't pay his rent. So I want job migration positive. I want, I'd like it to be a warm state. I don't know why anybody wants to live in the cold. It's hard on property.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Snow's hard on property.
Weather's a big deal.
So what are the other things we look for? Oh yeah, and I look for institutional quality assets because I want to know when I buy, where I exit.
So let's go into that thread a little bit. Talk to me, define, because you talked about, and this is where I started, right?
Yeah.
Class C,
Yeah.
value add, workforce housing. Walk me through why institutional and define institutional for me. Okay. Is it just any new development or how are you defining institutional in your world?
Well, what are institutions buying? So what I do is I basically, that old adage about find out what people want and give it to them.
Got it.
So what are institutions buying? That's what it means. It doesn't mean a class of inventory. Where are they buying? What are they buying? Why are they buying? Why will Blackstone buy an apartment deal? Well, they probably won't. They don't really want to buy an apartment deal. They want to buy a company.
Right.
That owns a bunch of apartments. People think they make money when they buy real estate. And I used to believe that. Oh, you make it when you buy it. But the truth is you got to have an exit. I need multiple exits. Is there somebody who wants to consume me? So Blackstone's $1 trillion company, almost $1 trillion of real estate. When we started creating our plan 3 or 4 years ago, it was like, okay, we're going to feed the beast. Because in the beginning, when I first did this, it was like, I'm going to raise the rents. I didn't know I was going to sell the property one day. I just knew, okay, I'm going to get a good cash flow. This was the beginning Grant Cardone amateur real estate investor. That's how most of us start out. I'm going to make 12% of my money. Cool, man. I'm going to do the deal. And I did it. I park my money, save it, protect it, and I make 12%. Second level of Grant Cardone. Man, I got some depreciation coming with this thing to offset this other income I got. So I can start looking at a better grade of asset with a lot of depreciation that I can, accelerate in the beginning. I know you got a very
bonus depreciation is huge.
And I started,
shout out Yona Weiss.
Yeah, I started banging these things for a bonus because I was making like millions of dollars in my other business that I could offset.
Right.
So that I was making millions here, offsetting it with a great purchase, still getting the cash flow. So I was still looking at B's and C's and starting to, like B plus, better locations because I had all this money coming in from the real estate. You started getting, I had 3,000 units paying me. I owned all of them.
It's insane.
And I got this going on. Then I got this other business going on. Then I got this partnership that's working. I'm like, I don't need cash flow. I want better assets. The third level of Grant Cardone was, okay, I'm going to start buying B pluses and A minuses. Then what happened was all the value add in the last 5 or 6 years, everybody started chasing the value add, overpaying for it. Cap rates went down to like 3s.
Yeah, at one point they're paying more than like an institutional Class A deal.
And then we shifted again.
Right.
This was 3.5 years ago. I'm like, screw that, bro. I'm not going to buy a 3 cap value add that I got to spend another 20 grand on per unit.
Right.
I just moved across the street and said, I'm going to go buy a brand new asset I have to spend nothing on. It is 2022 built. And 10 years from now, it'll be 10 years old. And we just shifted over to those and actually got a higher cap rate on those. So like when COVID happened, right? We dropped our pref at Cardone Capital. Just said no more pref to anyone. We dropped the pref and increased the value of the assets we bought because we believe those better assets in even better locations, like really started restricting locations. So my evolution went like this.
Wow.
To where I'm like, okay, I'm gonna buy the best asset in the best location at a 3.5 or a 4 cap. I'm not going to over leverage it. I'm going to raise the money for it. I'll be in the deal, and we have a 10-year cycle, not a 3 or 4 or 5-year cycle with Blackstone. I'm going to put together this big portfolio, and I'm going to go sell it to Blackstone until we got to today, because Blackstone can't buy anything today.
Yeah, they're not even offering redemptions from their fund. I just saw.
They're like tap out. Yeah. Okay, they thought they were getting ready to make, like some of these companies. I can't use all their names right now, but the top 5. They were like, don't sell anything 9 months ago. Buy more assets.
And they ended up overpaying.
Yeah. And I was competing with them. Like in the last 3 or 4 years, my competition on deals has been Arbor, Harbor, Cortland, Starwood, Blackstone. I'm getting eaten, like I'm competing with the biggest players on planet Earth. And I only won maybe 1 out of 30 deals. And I know what they were paying. They were overpaying by me by 30 million, 40 million. Like,
insane.
I'm like, what the hell's
Okay,
going
well,
on?
the difference is, and this is what I've been saying,
But this
that,
is the point about the exit.
Right.
Okay. This is the point about these guys need these assets because of the amount of funds.
well, the fees, right?
And the fees.
They're trying to collect fees.
Exactly.
It's not their money.
I'm not
Whenever
trying to
you're
collect
deploying,
fees.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You know, I'm trying to get an exit this 10 years from now. They're trying to get fees for 3 or 4 years, and their big fee is their exit fee. And here comes 2022, and interest rates explode. And hundreds of thousands of units were bought in the last 12 months to 18 months. Hundreds of thousands. Tens of thousands right here in Miami. Tens of thousands that are sitting on adjustables by the
floating
biggest
interest rates.
institutions in the world. And they need to sell them now because of their redemptions that you mentioned.
And floating interest rates, right? I mean, the float is.
Yeah.
So let me unpack something. Tell me if I understand this correctly, because I've been thinking the same thing, right? Whenever someone has a pref, right, and you're going through a tough time, the rents don't increase, especially going into the cycle we're going into, at the same rate as the pref. So as an operator, you're motivated. There's a misalignment there with your investors, right? Because you're motivated to sell so you can collect the promote. Versus if you remove the pref, now we're on the same side of the table. Let's grow NOI so we can distribute, and I'm motivated now to hold. Is that accurate?
1,000%. Look, the pref is an inherited broken concept where syndicators in the past basically went to the same handful of wealthy families, equity funds, hedge funds, and institutions, and depended on their money from the same group of people. Mm-hmm. I have never gone, I went to one person richer than me for money before.
How'd that go?
He gave me 20 million, and then he sent his guy in to start making the rules. I said, yeah, go ahead, man. Come up with your whole list, look around, do all your due diligence, come see me before you leave today. The guy spent 9 hours. He never bought a piece of real estate in his life, by the way. Never.
The fiduciary, the guy that came in. Yeah, the guy that came in. The number counter, yeah, the bean counter.
He goes, run. I said, when you get done, come see me, man. And he's like, yeah, sure, Grant, I'm getting ready to leave now. I said, you saw everything? You seen everything? This time I had bought, I don't know, $1 billion worth of real estate. I knew what I was doing. I mean, I was confident. I'm not going to adopt his plan for mine. Mine's working through multiple cycles. And I said, before you leave, I got something for you. And I gave him an envelope. And in the envelope was $20 million. I said, give it back to the guy. I've never taken money from a guy like that again. Because I don't want them making the rules. I've never been to Blackman, a Blackstone or a Goldman or
Morgan.
JP. And I could have gone to all of them. You know how the game works. I got 100 million, give me $1 billion. And they would do it. But they would be in charge.
They're in charge, right? Yeah.
Up until a few years ago, you couldn't crowdfund the way I did. So everybody went to the same people. You go to Goldman Sachs and they're going to be like, here's the rules. We'll give you the money. You're an operator. We like you. You guys do a great job, got a great track record. We want an 8 or 10% preferred. We want 2 points going in on the money. You're going to sell this in 3 to 5 years. Okay. If your DCR ever gets below a 130, then we're going to take over and put lock boxes on your. And I'm like, bro, I don't want that money. I don't want a gun to my head. Okay. So what we did was we bypassed those groups because I didn't want to feed them. My exit is to them. I either exit and sell to them in the future. I can't right now because they can't buy, or I become them in the future.
Yeah, I love it. And I think, you're touching on some really great things that I want to get to a little bit later, but let's talk about some practical advice. So,
Can I just say one thing though, for anybody syndicating, you guys need to get off your preferred returns. You do not need to offer preferred return to investors. It's actually not even fair for you or the investor.
Well, there is a misalignment. I totally agree. And it's a misalignment, right? If you're trying to, and in real estate, when you go in, the thing that you've done that everyone has been able to see is you hold real estate long-term and you want terms that allow you to hold it long-term. You don't want a misalignment where you're forced to sell at any given time.
We're going
through the same thing.
You shouldn't offer redemptions. You should never offer a redemption to an investor. Why did the redemptions come in? Okay, because Hartford, Harvard
endowment,
$58 billion. This is what happens. Harvard tells Prudential, we'll give you $2 billion. Florida State, hey, Prudential, we'll give you $2 billion, or they'll mix it up between 3 or 4. We'll give you guys $1 billion each, blah, blah, blah. CalPERS, the Teachers Credit Union. Hey guys, these are monster institutions. These aren't people.
Billions and billions.
Billions and billions. And they're not going to a syndicator. They're going to go to Prudential and say, Prudential, find a handful of syndicators that you guys trust and give them this money. Okay, what are the terms? We need a 9% preferred and we need to be out in 5 years, okay? Goldman Sachs, we just bought an asset from Goldman Sachs. They were supposed to sell it 2 years ago. They didn't because COVID hit. We bought it. Just now, we bought it for $20 million less than they got in it.
Wow.
Because they had to sell it. Right. So I wouldn't offer a preferred. I would not ever offer redemptions. We have no redemption offer in our plan. It says, I think it's 3.21. There are no redemptions in Cardone Capital, okay? I do have the ability to tell somebody, hey, you got a bad situation? Here, I'll give you your money back. Okay, and it's going to come out of my pocket, or we're going to find a buyer.
But they can't force a redemption.
No,
exactly.
Why would I offer that, dude? It's an illiquid asset, and we don't have three. And the third thing I would tell you, syndicators, do not offer a 3 to 5 year exit.
Exit when the time's right. You want the optionality.
Exactly.
Exit when the time is right. You don't want it forced. You don't want a gun to your head. So let's talk about, one of my taglines is the value add dad, right? Value add dad. And I know you're really big into fatherhood and being a incredible husband and being really present. Actually, one of the cool things that we have in common is we were homeschooled. So I love, your view on education.
You were homeschooled.
I was homeschooled.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
our mom stayed home. We were homeschooled till 7th or 8th grade.
Unfortunately, I went to the system.
Best thing that ever happened. But your daughters are homeschooled, right?
Yeah.
So it's amazing, and so I've really loved seeing you do that and how involved you are.
Do you homeschool your kids?
Well, they're too young right now. They're 2 and 4. Okay. I'm making the plea, Julie, let's homeschool. Yeah. I think it's the best way. Yeah. Honestly, I thought when I went to high school, because I really wanted to play basketball, I thought I was, reading, math, all the fundamentals, I knew inside and out better than everybody. Right. And I'm not like trying to sound like an a-hole, but the one-on-one attention you get and what you're able to learn. So let's talk about, value add dad. Yeah. So my thing is, let's offer some
value add dad.
That's my thing, value add dad. Like not just real estate, business, but like holistically, like how do I add value to dads?
Right.
So let's give some advice to fathers out there. They have kids, inflation, things are more expensive than ever. Insurance is up, taxes are up, groceries are up, gas is up. Their 401k's down. Yeah. Their portfolio in the market's down. They're probably not getting their bonus this year. They're maybe getting a pay decrease in 2023. So what advice do you have, real estate or non-real estate, for the dads out there? What are you doing, what are you saying to dads out there to give them advice to help them add a zero, add a multiple 10x where they're at?
So number one, value add dads is like, to add value, you need passive income.
Get some cash flow.
You need passive income. You need income that does not rely on your 8 hours or you to even be alive. Because if you expire, you add no value. Like I will add value to my kids' life and my charities and my wife and anybody else I want to help long after I'm dead. My dad died when he was 10 years old. The income stopped the same day he died. That's not value add. That's not even an exit plan. So he had some life insurance. He had no debt. He set everything up right, except there was no income. So I think to a value add dad, you earn extra money, bust your ass to earn extra money. And then when you get the extra money, don't change the quality of your life. Change the quality of the assets you have that will then in the future change the quality of your life. Number one. Number two, don't spend earned income ever. Don't spend it. Invest all of it. So, this is if you do this, you'll create wealth in your lifetime. Do not use earned income. If you earn 80 grand a year and there's 20,000 left over after the kids and the food and everything else and inflation, don't spend the 20 grand. Okay. Get along on basics, take the 20 grand and start investing in assets. Third thing is I would never give a penny. If you guys want to add true value, don't leave your money at the banks. Don't give it to IRAs and 401ks. These people are not nice people. They're not good people. It was a scam. It was created with Wall Street and banks and financial institutions and education, like literally, hypnotizing us to where your money has to be at Wells Fargo for it to be safe. It's not true. It's not safe as dying there. And it's not safe on Wall Street. I take a piece of paper and I am not going to trade it for another piece of paper that was made up. I'm going to take this piece of paper and say, how can I get something better? Oh, put it in concrete, glass, tenants. That's what I would do. And I don't know that I would go manage my first deal, because that's just another job. And now when you go start collecting rents at your Section 8 with a Glock, what happens is, you're not a value add dad right now. You're not in front of your kids.
Yeah, you're jeopardizing being a value add dad.
Yeah.
That's really good advice. I mean, I think, kind of like what you talked about when we were just getting started is, you lived on less than what you made big time. You had delayed gratification, right? And you found ways to invest all of your saved income into a hard asset that then paid you, right? And I think, delayed gratification and planning are two of the things that I really took from that. And I think if you're going to have a 401k and IRA, find a way to make it self-directed and put it into a hard asset, right? And I think you're hitting on something really good is do something where you have an advantage or someone has an advantage, right? If you don't understand property management, you probably shouldn't be doing that because then that's like not be, that's not very
Or if you're like me, I don't understand property management either. I don't understand how to manage property. I just buy big properties that already have property management.
Right. Well, that's the value. That's what you touched on of institutional quality. Yeah. So we're short on time here. So let's get through it. So there's the dads. I'm assuming you still talk to brokers a lot, right?
Oh, every day. I love brokers. I use a broker on every deal I've ever been involved in.
100%. So
if it was an off-market deal, I would use a broker.
1,000%.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, one of the things I love to study is like the psychology of brokers, how to build rapport with them, how to connect with them, how to get to where they are motivated to call me every time they have a deal. Yeah. So for all the brokers out there that are listening, there's a lot of brokers that watch the show. What's your advice to brokers headed into this season, right? Because most brokers I know have had an epic run the last 2 or 3 years. Epic run, made an insane amount of money, right?
They don't even know how to dial.
Right, exactly. They forgot how to the fundamentals, right? They forgot. They stopped doing it because it was so easy. They got a listing and had 20 offers. Yeah. So in this current season we're going into, brokers are down 70, 80%. They're forecasting being down 70, 80% in sales volumes. What's the advice for some of for the brokers out there?
You need to go back and really, renew those relationships that maybe you've ignored a little bit. I know what we're doing. Like, brokers are very, very valuable to us. Like
insane, yeah.
Never paid too much for a broker. They've never earned too much money on a deal. Brokers out there, like, you got to find out who's buying. I'm on the top. I'm on the list. Now, the problem with the list today is the other guys on the list are institutions. So you're going to have to go in the list now and find the individuals, because the individuals are going to reign power for the next 18 months. I got 2 meetings this week from the top 5 groups to go look at their portfolio to purchase. I could not get that meeting a year ago. So I would tell brokers, you guys need to arrange that meeting for me. Individuals, entrepreneurial, people with a bunch of powder. I'm sitting on 350 cash right now, 350 big ones, okay?
M's.
And I'm raising money every day. And I don't mind moving into this cycle. I was built for this cycle. You got to find more guys like me that did not depend on sovereign funds, hedge funds, and institutions for their dough.
That's such good advice, man. Like, all the institutions have dried up, right? They can't get the money, right? Because Wall Street has dried up, CLO market's dried up.
Tell them why they dried up.
I mean, when debt went up, they couldn't make the distributions they needed to.
They have adjustable loans too.
It dried up.
They just have. I have $2 billion, okay? 36 of our loans are fixed, 5 are adjustables. I have 5 deals that I will probably have to go in and fix. I can fix them out of my cash situation without raising money. Mm-hmm. The institutions have hundreds of thousands. One group, okay, they got 120,000 units. I'll bet you they picked up 30,000 last year. All 30,000 are on adjustables, and they're value add that need work. So that 30,000 units at $200,000 a unit, that's $6 billion that's going to adjust on them. And they got institutions like Florida calling saying, we need our $1 billion back. And they're going to give it back to them. Harvard, I need $1 billion. They're going to give it back to those guys because they reign so much weight and power. And so they're going to redeem that. Then their REIT value is going down. It's like, it's ugly. They can't go buy. They will have to sell. They have to readjust their allocations, as you know, out of hotel and office, and they got problems everywhere. Stock market shit's going down.
Liquidity's tough. I mean, that's what it changes so fast, right? I mean, it was like a drop of a dime, and liquidity's everywhere, and all of a sudden, overnight, it dried up, and it's gonna and it's just starting.
Look, right? I wouldn't be surprised if the Fed is not in cahoots with some of these other people to whack out some of these big players. Redistribute wealth.
Yeah, 100%. What I love about what you just said is, if you're a broker out there, you got to get back to the fundamentals.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be institutions that are going to save the day. It's going to be individuals. Yeah. Find out the people in your market that have dry powder, that know how to operate. I think to touch on one other thing before we start talk about this fund, and I want to get into that, is, institutions don't really know how to manage, right? They're not as aligned with their investors because it's not their money, right? When you and I do a deal, dude, your money's in there right along your investors. So you're not going to let that thing die. Yeah. You're going to do whatever it takes to save that deal, right? And you understand property management. You've been doing it for 20 plus years, right? So you understand how to coach your property manager. Hey, we need to drop rents, we need to lower rents, offer some concessions, right. We need to improve maintenance, whatever.
As long as I'm not having to answer calls
As long as you're not getting the toilet call.
Institutions every 3 days from a bunch of 20-year-old analysts that never bought a piece of real estate. Because JP Morgan's on the phone saying, we got to have another meeting this week. And the next week, I got to have another meeting. Like when COVID happened, I didn't have any of those meetings. You know, because my investors are regular people.
Right.
I'm not having to get on a required phone call with the institution that gave me the dough, the equity. So all we had to do was manage our properties.
Yeah. And I think that's the big key, right, is the management. What you see on an Excel spreadsheet pro forma means zero. It's about managing,
people,
right? And every $100 is worth around $20,000 to $25,000 in back-end value.
Right.
So every $100 is so hard to make, right? To lower expenses, to grow NOI. Those are things, tactical things that you have to really know and have boots on the ground to know what they're doing. And I think that's the advantage for guys like us is we're scrappy, we're gritty, and we know how to assemble the team to do that.
We just did a deal. We bought this office deal. It was 77% occupied. Location's ridiculous. Perfect location. They were 77%. The institutions owned the place for 7 years. We closed last Wednesday. On Thursday, I had already had 3 leases signed that would take the building from 77 to 92. And we'd been there 24 hours.
Unbelievable.
We did in 24 hours what they couldn't do in 7 years.
It's insane. And so shout out to all the investors in that deal. Sounds like they're going to be enjoying that return. Let's talk about the fund because I love your thesis on the fund. I love who it's for. So talk about the asset classes, what you're buying, and what who's invited into the fund. Talk about the fund.
Okay, so I picked the deal. I've been doing this 35 years. I've never lost money in an apartment deal. We focus on the best locations possible. We never compromise that. It is A, B, C, 1, 2, 3. The most important thing is the location. Then it's the asset. We buy from institutions. We're trying to buy multiple deals or many deals all at the same time.
So what's an average transaction, like 1,000 units when you say multiple deals? What do you?
We'll do, we did last December, this time we did 4 deals. It was $1 billion. It was $1.1 billion.
And that was one transaction. You closed it at the same time.
We closed all 4 deals on the same day.
So this fund
is
going to be...
2 of them were bought from one institution and 2 from another group.
And is it going to just strictly be multifamily or you get into some office or opportunistic plays?
We would look at opportunity. I mean, if I could buy all the retail on Sunny Isles, I would.
It'll be opportunistic for retail, office, and other things.
Distressed assets. I'm sorry. Great assets, distressed sellers.
Right. Motivated distressed
sellers. That doesn't mean they're broken or they're financially inept. It means they have to sell. I'm looking for a seller. This is our phone call. We see your deal, like off market, I wouldn't touch one off market deal. I need somebody to identify we're for sale. Then I need to find out, are you really for sale? What if you don't get your number? Well, if we don't get our number, then we got to talk to the board. Hang up the phone. I'm looking for the guy that says, I have to sell. We will sell no matter what. This must get off our books, period, end of story.
We've got a gun to our head. We need it off our books.
We have to get it off. That means I'm looking for a fund that has an expiration date or they've already gone beyond it.
That's amazing.
And if I have to pay cash for the deal, I will, because the debt market might not assist me right now.
So you'll pay cash for a deal and then come back and finance it later?
I'll finance it in the future and recapitalize all our investors, keep them in the deal, not throw them out the way the big groups do.
Tax-free refi, right? Give them back.
Totally.
So talk to me about...
And we distribute every month. So what we did, I looked at what the funds don't do.
Right.
Okay? They don't want to distribute every month, even though they're giants. They're so big, man. AT&T pays a dividend every quarter, but they collect money every month. I think it's so wrong. And when we created our fund, I basically built it for my family and said, duplicate what we did for the family. Lawyers came in and said, oh, well, you could do this, you could do that. I said, bro, why are you changing it? Do exactly what I did for my family for everyone. Accredited, non-accredited, $1 million investors or $10,000 investors. Everybody gets treated the same.
So you accept people that write a $5,000 or $10,000,
that's right,
$15,000 check?
Even though I was told I shouldn't do that.
So it's for the masses?
It's for everybody.
Everybody's welcome into the fund.
Yeah, because you make friends like that, man. And when I send people money, man, I make friends. I got people that don't like me, that like me no more because every month on the 15th, they get a check
They
from
can't
me.
help but like you, when you send them that mailbox.
They might not like my message on Instagram, but they're like, dude, the guy sends us money every month.
He shows me the money.
Yeah.
He shows me Jerry Maguire. So talk to me about how much are you trying to raise for the fund? What's the goal? What's the target?
This fund's $150 million. We'll raise that probably in 2 months.
Okay. Talk to me about...
Without identifying an asset. And I strongly encourage everybody that if you get in, when $150 million comes in, that means $150 million moves into an account. It is protected. It earns 3% while we wait for the asset. When you close with us on the asset, 150 million,
Right.
the whole 150, not 150 less something, 150 million goes into that asset. It is then protected in that asset. We don't pay a pref. We distribute every month. The property will cash flow the month after we buy it.
Right.
We try to distribute 13 checks in a 1 year cycle
How is that?
every month, and then we try to bonus in December.
Oh, wow.
And we target 6 and 7% returns, cash flow, but we're looking for 2 and 3x returns, and then we get an 80-20 split.
Over the 10 years.
80-20 on all cash flow and on any of the upside. But the exit, the ultimate exit is not to sell the asset. It is to refi the asset somewhere between 4 and 7 years, return all capital to the investors, make them whole, non-taxable event, and then keep the asset, and we continue to do our 80-20.
Yeah, that's the way to build wealth, right?
No waterfalls, no complicated distribution where I end up getting 50% of some upside.
It's amazing.
And our exits could be the refi, could be a sale, or it could be we read out. We turn the entire portfolio into a REIT, and it will lift the value of everything.
Wow. And what do you think the time, I mean, just looking into a crystal ball, what would you see the timing on that, on something like that being? Like if you were going to go public and turn into a REIT, what do you think that is? The next 3, 4, 5 years?
Well, if you'd asked me this last year, I'd be like, man, it's going to take me a long time to do this. But now I'm like, we're probably going to be able to buy more assets in this next 18 months than I was able to buy in the last 10 years.
One of the questions that I ask every guest is superpower. What would you say your superpower is? I mean, you've done all kinds of things and you've got an incredible track record, but what would you say like your superpower is right now as you sit here today?
Man, I don't know. I think everybody's got a lot of superpowers.
But what's the dominant one that you would say, Grant Cardone, when you look in the mirror, it's like, this is what I do. This is my special sauce.
One is persistence, man. I just don't quit. Like if I tell you guys I'm going to buy 100,000 units and I am going to own 100, I'll be one of the largest apartment owners in the world. I have never, ever stopped. The only way to stop me is to kill me. And then I would even question whether I come back or not. I'm a boom, you know? So persistence, I have built my persistence muscle up. It was all that cold calling I was doing when I was 30. The second one is I'm extremely disciplined with money. And it doesn't matter whose it is. It could be your money, your brother's money. It doesn't matter whose it is. I watch money. I never lose it. I respect it. And I try to multiply it. And on the same thing on buying property. Like, I don't use your money any different than I would my own money. I'm not reckless because I'm self-made. Like I came up from the mud, and you know I've never had a silver spoon. I've never had anybody give me anything. The fact that I've never taken money for an institution and got to the size that I am is like it's really unheard of. And the other thing is I believe in people, man. You know, one of my superpowers, I believe in the little guy. I got a chip on my shoulder. The big institutions have always ignored me. I'm an outcast. I'm a little bit of an outcast. And I believe in the little guy. Like we created this fund because my mom, you know, what's crazy is my mom, we created our first fund, it was for accredited investors only. And I didn't really even understand what that meant until I realized my mom couldn't invest in my fund. My niece, that's known me for 50 years at the time, couldn't invest in my fund because she only made $150,000 a year. I'm like, what's the difference? 150 grand or 200 grand? She knows me. She trusts me. Why can't she invest? Well, she's not accredited. I said, this is stupid. Why did they have this rule? Oh, to protect the little guy. I'm like, well, I don't understand. How does 50 grand make her more intelligent? I know when I was making $80,000 a year, I was more intelligent than some people that make $1 million. And I know people that make millions and millions of dollars a year that they shouldn't be able to invest in anything. They're idiots. There's some kid that inherited a bunch of money and don't know anything. So the SEC is not there to protect the little guy. The SEC is there to protect the institutions against the little guy. Little guys joining together and becoming powerful force because they put their funds together.
One of the things I enjoy about you so much, right? And I've been studying for this, watching a lot of YouTube. I've probably watched every interview you've done in the last 6 months. You know what I mean? Is you're like a thoughtful contrarian, right? It's not like, and it's based on experience, and so I think there's so much, the media you got to be really careful. People out there have to be really careful. And this is the thing I love about you is you're using your platform to educate and speak truth in a thoughtful way, right? It's contrarian on education, on sales, on money, on real estate, on cash flow. And all those things have taken into, if you apply it, it'll be life-changing.
The beauty about real estate is it could never be an SBF
situation, scandal.
Yeah, FTX thing. It can't. You know why? Because there's a real asset. It's a real address. You can go, oh, there's the address. That's in Scottsdale. Oh, that's how many people are there. There's a tenant. There's a bunch of tenants in there. There's a lease in there. There's an audit in there. Like, you cannot steal real estate like that. And this is why Bank of America will not lend money to you to buy Bank of America stock, but they would lend money to almost anyone to buy multifamily. And the great secret out there is that it is easier for someone with bad credit to get a loan on 200 units than it is to get a loan on one house. Because I bypass my credit score. The property becomes, the asset is so valuable.
Money is a mirage. You said that on a show. Money is a mirage, And I think so many of the people that reach out to me are like, yeah, how do you raise money? How do you do this? I need 500 grand for this deal. I need $1 million. I fell short. I did this. Yeah. Money is a mirage. Like, the longer I'm in the game and the more money I raise and the more I get around people with money, that's the view of money. So just in layman's terms, give people the punchline of what you mean when you say money is a mirage.
You are connected to every bank account on planet Earth to the degree that you can communicate to every person on Earth.
Wow.
So the moment I can communicate, run a string, a line from me to you, and build trust on that line, I'm now connected to your bank account, your IRA, your 401k, your savings, your future, your equity, everything.
Wow.
To the degree I can communicate effectively.
Effective communication is key to bridging the gap.
And frequently and consistently communicate, because the thing that builds trust is not words. It is frequency and consistency. People might not like my message online. They will always say, yeah, but the one thing about this dude, bro, he keeps showing up. He shows up in my emails. He shows up online. He shows up on Facebook. Barstools tried to drag on me yesterday. They got 4 or 5 million followers. I got their attention and they tried to drag on me. And I, converted that whole conversation to something positive.
I really appreciate you being here. I thought it was amazing. How can people learn more about the fund? And also, I think sales is a big thing going into this next season, right? Brokers, people that need to grow their income so they have more disposable income to invest in hard assets. How can people find out about Cardone and the fund?
Cardone Capital is how you find out about what we're going to do. We're building a $150 million fund to buy $450 million worth of assets, distressed assets. It could be accomplished this week, by the way. I have a meeting on Tuesday. I could buy all this from one guy.
Wow.
And they would still have another 8,000 problems that they have to get rid of. They have to divest of. We ought to think about doing something together. But the other thing, the comment you made about, buying real estate is really a sales job. It's not really a buyer's job. So in the beginning, when I was buying real estate, I had everything backwards. I thought I needed the money. Then I thought I needed the debt. I didn't know anything about either one of them. And then I put the deal third. Today, we've just switched it. Hey, man, it's the deal. The right deal will always bring in the right debt. There'll be somebody who'll be like, I'll be the debt on that deal. And the bigger these deals, by the way, the bigger the deals, the easier the deals get. Like
the easier the debt.
Everything gets easier. Like a 10,000 units would be easier for me to purchase than 1,000. A REIT would be even easier for me to buy. We've had those phone calls this week. It would be easier for me to buy a REIT, even though I don't know where to get $10 billion or $5 billion. It would be easier for me to buy a REIT than it would be for me to buy a portfolio. So none of us are told this, unfortunately, because maybe there's an agenda to keep people small. So it's the deal, it's the debt. Once you have the deal and the debt together, dude, the equity, not even a problem. There's no shortage of money that will follow a great deal.
So this is the last point, because you said this on a show.
And that requires a salesman, not a buyer. You got to learn how to pitch. You got to learn how to talk to people. You got to learn how to pull people in. You got to learn how to get attention. And I don't mean salesman in a bad way. Probably a better is a promoter, to learn how to promote and raise money.
Well, I think communicate effectively is really what I would say. Communicate effectively. That's what you know how to.
Communicate effectively.
This has been amazing. I mean, I've learned so much, and I think for everyone out there, share this with people out there, fathers, brokers, people in college. I think there's so many people that need to hear, this conversation about money, about saving, about delayed gratification, about watching capital closely, about where you put your capital, and just your view of money. Money, society, all these layers that society's put in place that actually are not there to benefit you and your family, right? And I think you are one of the thought leaders about speaking truth into that, right? And so I just personally, I think, just thank you for that. I think you got to keep fighting the good fight, keep sharing, spreading the truth, and just being an example. Like you said this on an interview recently was, most billionaires don't give people an inside look at what's going on behind the scenes, And so people may misconstrue, misunderstand some of your posts and the birds and the planes and all this stuff. But it's like you're trying to give people tangible hope of like, if I did it coming from Lake Charles.
I'm a regular guy.
I'm a regular guy, Lake Charles, come from nothing. Yeah. Father passed away, and look what I've been able to do. And here's what you can do as well, And so I think,
don't hate on the regular guys, man.
That's right.
Regular guys talk like regular people. They don't use big words. I'm not Jamie Dimon where I have to be all thoughtful and thought out and worried about what the Federal Reserve is going to say about me or the president. I don't have that. I'm just a regular guy.
Well, Grant, this has been great. I'm actually going to be at the conference with my brother this weekend, so I'm really excited. We're going to be there.
2,000 people in the room.
Yeah, I can't wait. Yeah. Ryan hooked it up, and so I'm really excited to be there and check that out. It'll be my first experience.
And we're going to stream that. We're going to stream that entire event over Twitter Spaces for free.
Oh, wow.
Could be 1 million people.
Shout out to Elon Musk.
Yeah, I love Elon.
Let's go, baby. Hey, that was awesome, man. Thank you so much. That was amazing.